everybody. Welcome to the UWS Kickoff show. Not the recap show, not our cup of tea, but once again, I am hosting, so who knows? It's the Kickoff show, though. It's Saturday morning. It's week 7 coming up. I'm joined by Kaylor this morning, and we're going to chat all things UWS. How are you doing today, Kaylor?
You know, I'm feeling pretty good today. It's a beautiful day down here in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm going to try to avoid outside as much as possible and enjoy the outside from the indoors.
Yes, windows. They were vented for a reason. We will be having Katie joining us very shortly. She'll be hopping on, but Jonathan is at a training camp. So that's super awesome for him. We wish him well, and he will be back. Don't worry. And look who it is. It's Katie Goodman.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing today, Katie?
Good. I've got my matcha going in this cute little cup I couldn't resist from Starbucks. I had to get a new little mug. Uh-oh, she's frozen. Oh, no. How are you doing? Oh, there you are. You're back. Megan, you froze for like 2 seconds. Sorry about that.
I know. I was like, my Wi-Fi, not my Wi-Fi.
No. How are you guys doing?
I mean, hey, living the best life. How about you?
Working on it. A lot of crazy in the universe at the moment, which we don't have to get into, but I think we can all understand what is happening at the government. So anyway, I digress. Things are great otherwise, right? So
yeah, let's just move right into soccer.
Yeah,
because we know soccer's going to be fun. It's going to be nice.
We're right. 100% agreed there.
We are coming up to some very intense matches. This season, we're in week 7 now. It's getting down to crunch time. Games are being played, upsets are happening, records are being snapped. So let's get into some recap of that week 6 match. So, Kaylor, who are you covering?
I want to talk about this little Atlanta derby that happened. The Panthers take down the Fire 2-1. And for this win for the Panthers, not only does it secure the division and they are going to nationals, write it down, they're going wherever that is. There's the big thing that I noticed here, and I just want to talk about it just a second. Megan Welch, she's a defender for the Panthers, got a goal against the Fire, who is her former club. So she gets a chance to send her new team to the Nationals against her former team, who I guess just didn't want her back. And I'm guessing they're missing her right now. So then Riley Friesen, she goes and gets a goal off the bench. Taylor Clark, the pride of Tennessee Tech, does get a goal for the Fire. But you know for Megan that she is buzzing right now.
Yeah, there's something about doing it against your old club that just means a little bit more. And I don't know whether that was the move that came about for her, whether it was a personal choice or whether it was one that needed to happen. Not got the inside scoop on there, but either way, it's very interesting that she was able to put on that performance in a high pressure situation. Not only a personal one, but that was a huge game for Atlanta as a city. We previewed it last week because we knew that this game meant a lot for soccer within the community. And I'm really happy that it was an epic game. Finished 2-1, and both sides put out a fantastic performance.
Yeah, there's nothing like being able to flex in that way. Like just your new team winning and making their way into the, playoffs. Like it's a good feeling to have. Sucks when you're on the opposite side, but great when you're on the winning side, right?
This is very true. Katie, what matchup did you have?
So I was looking at FC Buffalo and FC Berlin. It's another one of those, local derbies. They've got a rivalry going on. And FC Buffalo, who's number 1, beat Berlin only 1-0. So I think there's a lot happening in that game. Great defense on FC Berlin's part. But again, FC Buffalo is keeping that number 1 spot because they were able to walk away with the win on this one. Also, FC Buffalo's back line is just amazing. That's something we've seen all season. So really, they've had a great season, and the one goal came shortly after halftime when Janaba Tiam fired home for the host. So I really hope I said that name right. If not, please come at me on Twitter and I will redo it for you. But fantastic, fantastic goal there. Now, another note is that FC Berlin had a back-to-back game. So the very next day, they played the Erie Commodores and they lost 5-0. So I think that had a lot to do probably with the intensity of the game against FC Berlin. I mean, clearly they gave their all in that game to walk away with the 1-0 final score. And so with the Berlin and Erie Commodores game, that one was just it's kind of brutal. But there's always another game to try again, to restart and reset. And at this point, I think for them, it's more about working on team cohesion and seeing how they can finish out the rest of the season strong and working on all those little things that are going to help them to build into next season. So and
Yeah,
again, it's a shame that only one team can go to the playoffs. I keep saying that, but I'm really we need to make an amendment for next year. Let's just putting that in the suggestion box. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Penny York division weekend of matches was super interesting because you had FC Buffalo and FC Berlin go up against each other and play this really tight, close battle that FC Buffalo were able to come out on top. And I think that's the way that everybody saw that result going. But we know FC Berlin are not an easy team to beat. And then I think you're right in saying that they just put so much energy into that game that when it came to that second game of the weekend, we talk about all the time, these condensed schedules, they're difficult. And when you haven't got a very large roster where you can totally change that starting 11, and for some teams, that's just not ideal anyways, it makes that second game really difficult. And I also think that Erie were coming into that game with a point to prove because they are sat in second place, 12 points, 2 points behind FC Buffalo. I think they were seeing, wow, FC Buffalo only able to escape away with a 1-0 win. We're going to go out and we're going to show them that we can do it and 1-up them or 4-up them and finish with that 5-0 score. So that was a really interesting weekend up in Penn, New York.
It's interesting how all of these dynamics work within these specific divisions, right? Just between local rivalries, between proving points, between, there's just so much happening in these leagues, and I'm so glad we're here to cover it. But yeah. I mean, again, it was literally the next day after playing FC Buffalo. That is hard. So I definitely want to give Berlin credit where it's due. I mean, they had a great game against Buffalo, and it's no easy thing to walk away with them with only 1 point on the sheet, against. So I think they did a pretty good job, in my opinion. Tough weekend.
Yeah, completely agree. So my eyes were drawn over to that Midwest conference because in the Midwest, we've seen a lot of very one-sided games, but there's a matchup between the Mustangs and the St. Louis Scott Gallagher that we know is going to produce a tight competition. And so when I saw that game coming up, that was the one that I had to watch and I had to do the recap of. So St. Louis Scott Gallagher actually had a really busy week in week 6. They played 3 games in a row. So on Thursday night they played, Friday night they played, and then on Saturday, coming up against the Chicago Mustangs, they were playing in their 3rd straight match play. But the score lines from the previous 2 games did indicate to me that St. Louis Scott Gallagher had a very clear game plan of what they wanted to achieve. They wanted to get that goal differential very close, take the lead if they could, and they wanted to go out against the Mustangs and get that 3 points. Now, back in week 1, these 2 teams played each other in an epic game, but the Mustangs came out on top with that 2-1 win. So this was a must-win game for St. Louis Scott Gallagher. And the game began, and within 1 minute, St. Louis Scott Gallagher had already had their first shot. It was a strike from distance from the right wing. Kind of hard to tell like whether it was actually close, but I feel like it really just set the tone because you knew that they were here and they were ready and they wanted to score early. But after that first chance, the game kind of got dictated by the Mustangs. They kind of got possession of the ball, moving it around. And then St. Louis Scott Gallagher got a corner in the 11th minute, and number 23 headed it home, scored, and suddenly the goal was not awarded. Now, did either of you two catch this game?
I did not.
I caught the
But it
second
sounds like
half.
I should have.
I
Because
caught the
I
second
don't know
half.
why it was called back. Like, I'm still to this day asking, like, what happened? Because instead the Mustangs got a free kick, and I just don't know why.
Would it have been a foul in the box?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, did something happen before the camera like moved
Caught
so I
there.
couldn't see it? I don't know, but like nobody is talking about it on Twitter, and I'm just sat here like thinking, what is going on? So they went a goal up, but then it was taken away. And then just a minute later, St. Louis Scott Gallagher were coming up again, and Erin Connolly found herself through on goal, and she executed the game plan. This time the goal counted, and St. Louis Scott Gallagher went up 1-0 in the 12th minute. And from there on, it was a back and forth affair. And just before halftime, the Mustangs had a really beautiful possession, moving the ball side to side, waiting for that perfect moment to find the gap, and they equalized, and it was 1-1. And so going in at halftime, 1-1, both teams came back out in the second half. Kayla, I'm sure you were watching at this point and you were thinking, is somebody going to take this one? But nobody was able to find the back of the net again. And so with the 1-1 draw, St. Louis Scott Gallagher moved up into first place, 16 points, and their busy 3-day schedule saw their goal differential raised to 37, but still not enough because the Mustangs do have a couple of games in hand. They've still got the higher goal differential. So at this point, the Midwest Division looks like it's in the hands of the Mustangs. If they win out, they take care of business, they will be the ones to represent that Midwest Division.
Wow. Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Whenever I was watching this, the second half, it wasn't for the lack of chances, but it felt like both teams just decided to, really just harden up on defense. And the offense, I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but the offense felt so far away from that defensive midfield to the back line. It felt like for both teams, they were just so far apart that it was like, we're looking for maybe a long ball, or we're looking for, we have to switch the field. There wasn't a lot of, real pretty 1-2s that we saw in the first half. We saw with the highlights with the first half. Yeah. And I don't know, it was definitely a weird watch going from 1-1 at the half to really no team taking advantage of the opportunities that were kind of presented. But you kind of have to feel for Scott Gallagher here. I mean, these two teams have shown to be the clear cream of the crop. And, with one team between them in a bit of a purgatory in the standings, like you and I talked about last week, Megan. But you kind of feel for Scott Gallagher because with you dropping these points, you lose control. And it's so unlikely at this point that Chicago will drop any more points.
Right, I totally agree. And the thing is, with that game, it's St. Louis Scott Gallagher seems to play that way where ball in behind, they've got the speed, they've got the composure in front of goal, and they can finish those. And it was on this day in that second half where they really needed to just execute that and come through with it. And yeah, but I think at the same time, they knew they needed to do that, but they couldn't risk conceding either. And so, yeah, it was kind of that funny second half play. And now you're exactly right. It's up to the Mustangs to take this one all the way through.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're kind of at that point now in the season where we can begin to make some predictions and kind of see where things are starting to end up. And I mean, I know in the Southwest Conference, it's kind of the same. I mean, there's two teams who, in my opinion, are really in contention, FC Austin Elite and the Athenians. So that. More to come on that, but you know, like it's just it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. I think these next couple of weeks on the show, we're going to be able to dig a lot deeper. We're going to again make some closer predictions, and that's when things really start getting good, right?
I
Yeah.
just want to ask you guys real quick, if as players, how much are you looking at this? If you're a Scott Gallagher player thinking, what if it was just one back to back? Or what if this was the only match of the weekend and not back to back to back? I mean, your legs, I mean, the second half looked like Mustangs sat in defensively and Scott Gallagher just didn't have the legs to do. I mean, how much are you just thinking, what if we had 90 less minutes on these legs this week?
It makes all the difference, in my opinion. And I
Yeah.
also think the age of your team makes a huge difference because think about when you're in high school, you're playing club tournaments, you know, so you have multiple games a weekend like it's nothing. But like by the time you get into college, the schedule is so much more spaced out. You're not there's nobody has back-to-back games. That's just like unheard of, you know. And so then by the time you get to the UWS, you've gotten used to that schedule. So unless you're maybe a younger college player in between seasons, I feel like it's hard on the body to go back into that. Or unless you're just one of those really active people who've been doing things in between games anyway on your own, that's definitely a possibility. I'm not one of them at all. So I know for me, I'd be dying. But I know that's just my opinion. What do you think, Meg? Oh, is she frozen? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think 3 straight games. Am I good? Am I here?
You're good now.
For me, 3 straight games is too much. Like the body can handle a back to back, like because you just kind of push through, good recovery. Like the athletes in this league are extremely fit. But 3 games is something else. Like 3 games is a lot. And any of those players who have been playing that 65, 70 mark plus in those games are going to be feeling it. And yeah, there's really not much that you can do to help the body after playing 2 back-to-back games and going into a third. Like that at that point, yes, you can do the recovery stuff, but your body is fatigued. Fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I was a St. Louis Scott Gallagher player, I'd be thinking like, oh, this is so frustrating because on a different day, that could have been our game. We have the talent in the squad to beat the Mustangs. So from that perspective, it's frustrating. But also, I do think that clubs have some kind of involvement when they make their schedule. So I don't know how that would have come into play to be like, let's do that 3 game. They also did, you know, really kind of grow from that Thursday to Friday game, sorry, because it was a 5-0 and then they quadrupled that scoreline. So they did kind of see some growth in their play, which they could have maybe liked and thought like us winning these 2 games really puts pressure on the Mustangs. So we want that pressure maybe. There's so many factors that go into it, but from a physical perspective as a player, that's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And like to your point, Megan, like this just kind of rung a bell for me. Like this is a higher level that we're playing at too. This is not high school club soccer 3 games in a row. This is the best of the best 3 games in a row, right? So that's a lot on players there. And I'm talking speed of play, physicality, all of that plays a role, right? And then, you know, from a coaching perspective, all you can really do is just try to stack your team and have more than double of a roster for games like this. I mean, I can imagine that if the coach saw this coming, which it sounds like he did because it was on the schedule, that, you know, I would be recruiting. I'd make sure I'd have more than enough people to pull from for players who couldn't make it or injuries or whatnot, because that is definitely a lot. But again, yeah, glad to see the growth that occurred there. And at least there were some positives that were able to come out of that weekend for them. Yeah.
Definitely. And so now in the show, we're going to move on to our new segment that I have introduced since being named host while Jonathan is out on his adventures. Katie, you are yet to participate in this, but I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
So this is shock or no shock. And we're going to recap on some of these midweek matches that we saw. So we had a couple of midweek, and then we also had the games that were played last night at the start of this week 7 weekend. So
Okay.
I will say the scoreline, and then I guess we can alternate between, like, Kaylor, you go first, and then Katie, and then the next one, Katie,
Okay.
you go first, and then Kaylor. And obviously, we can discuss these games too. And if you're watching along, definitely comment if you think it's a shock or not. We would love to hear from you. So, starting off, we had Keystone 1, Coppermine United 3. Shock or no shock?
Sorry,
Kaylor.
is it me first?
Kaylor, go first.
Oh.
There we go. No shock. I mean, maybe the score line is a shock, but a little bit, but the result itself, not to me anyway.
I'll second that totally. Like, I feel like there's not a whole lot more to say. Like, I think going into it, they were expected to win, but hey, 3 goals, on the sheet is great. And I think that's a really solid win for any team. But again, they got that, other goal. So they got one on the sheet as well. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think it was expected and not shocked.
FC Buffalo 0, Rochester Lancers 0. Shock or no shock, Katie?
Not shocked. I mean, they promoted this game quite a bit. They knew that going into it, it was going to be a really tough one for them. I mean, it was all over the FC Buffalo's Instagram. So yeah, no, I think they knew it was going to be a tough one. It was kind of a must win and resulted in a tie. So yeah, kind of had a feeling it would end up that way.
Just to make sure I heard it right, you said 0-0?
I did.
That's a shock. When's the last time we've seen 0 teams score? That's a shock to me. And also,
Solid point.
I mean, when you look at the table, it shouldn't be a shock, but in my head, this is a shocker. I just happen to see Buffalo just.
Yeah, they're a high scoring team.
So this is Penn New York division for anybody who's not sure. I know the East gets a little bit jumbled. FC Buffalo sat at the top with 14 points. Rochester Lancers third in the standings with 11 points. So Rochester Lancers had won 3 games and lost 1 game and tied 1 game going into this matchup against Buffalo. For me, I was expecting it to be a competitive game, but I was expecting Buffalo to win. So for me, this is a shock because I know the standings are very close in a lot of our divisions, but when the first place team doesn't win, it's almost kind of a shock because we see them looking to win. And the third place team come in and denying Buffalo from even scoring. I mean, that's a shock to me. But the Lancers are growing into this season. They are a very strong side. So I'm not shocked that they could compete with Buffalo. So I understand why people would say it's not a shock. But for me, it is a shock.
Yeah. I mean, looking at their stat, like they don't have a huge differential in points, slight differential in games played. So I think they knew it was going to be a tough match, but I think it was probably hopeful to have won that one, if I'm being honest, but I'm still not shocked because I think it was meant to be a tough match. And again, this is where these conferences get complicated, right? Because we don't know how everybody stacks up against each other. And in like some conferences are just really solid conferences, and this is one of them. Yeah.
Definitely. So keeping in that Penn New York division, we had Erie Commodores 3, Pittsburgh Hotspurs 2.
I mean, this one's not a shock at all. I mean, some people might be surprised by Pittsburgh Hotspur getting 2 goals. But if you've watched them this year, I mean, that's not really a shock at all. And Erie has been known to leak in a few goals as well. So this seems to be pretty standard for what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, from me, just kind of, I haven't been following the Hotspurs super closely. I know Erie Commodores have been very successful this season, but for them, a number 5 team to get points in that game, or excuse me, to get goals in that game versus the number 2 team, I think that's great and impressive and not something that I could have foreseen, you know? So, I guess I don't know if I would say shocked, but I think I guess I'll say shocked because I don't know. I wasn't expected by any means.
This is an all or nothing game. You're either shocked or you're not shocked. Katie
Yeah.
likes to fall in between. She needs a third option.
I know. No gray area, man. Come on. I need some gray. I need some gray.
For me, this is not a shock. Like you say, Kaylor, Pittsburgh Hotspurs, they can score. And they're a tough team to beat. They seem to always get on this get on the score sheet. They always seem to give people a good run for their money. But they can't win. They have not won so far this season. And so the fact that they have lost is not a shock to me. I'm excited for their future though, because there is just one missing piece for them that I do foresee will come together for next year and to make them even more competitive. But their record does not do them justice almost, because this Penn New York division there is no easy team. There is a tough match in every single game because every team is difficult to beat. So for me, yeah, this is not a shock. I saw Erie coming out on top. I saw Hotspurs scoring, but another great Penn New York matchup. Next game, CT Fusion 1, CT Rush 0. Shock or no shock?
CT Fusion and CT Rush. Go ahead, Kaylor. I think you were going to. No?
I mean, that's not a shock. It's not a shock to me. This feud, it looks bad. I guess this seems like it should be a closer match when you look at the table, but the gap between these two teams is just huge. This is just not a shock.
Yeah. You said the score is 1-0, Megan?
Yes.
CT Fusion? Yeah, I agree with Kaylor on that. I mean, Connecticut Fusion has 13 points. Connecticut Rush has 3. So, like, I think for me, I would have expected that to be a much higher scoring game for Connecticut Fusion. But hey, you know what? I guess Rush showed up this week and decided to put their defense to use. So that's great. That's great stuff. But yeah, a shock for me.
Okay. For me, not a shock. I saw Fusion winning, but like you say, Katie, I do think that in hindsight, the Fusion probably would have wanted to have put more goals past the Rush. But I almost feel like these two teams kind of have a rivalry. So the fact that it's a close game is not a shock when you put in like derby rivalry terms. So yeah,
Right.
if there was an in between, I may have been there. So we'll go no shock. Moving out into the Southwest Conference, we had Central Texas Hornets 0, San Antonio Runners 3. Shock or no shock, Katie? What do you think?
That one was interesting because the Runners have had a couple of games where they just haven't quite been able to put goals into the back of the net. So that one for me, I knew it was going to be a good game, but I was not expecting the Runners to get three goals in that game. So I'm impressed. I feel like that should be an option. Can I say impressed? But like, I think it's great that the Runners won that one. The Hornets unfortunately have struggled quite a bit this season. So yeah, I mean, I think if I had to go in and preview that match, I would have said yes, the Runners were going to win. But again, the score I think is the more shocking factor for me. So while I'm not surprised they won, I am surprised they got a lot of points on the board.
Yeah, I'm falling into the Katie Gray zone. It's the whole. I mean, you aren't shocked that the fact that the Runners won. You're shocked at how they won. That's kind of where I'm falling to.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So going into this game, the Runners had only scored 2 goals this season. And so, yeah, to put in 3, that is impressive. Maybe they're beginning to kind of find that connection, that chemistry up top. able to string together some goals. And so, yeah, a good shock in the scoreline, but heading into that, we were expecting the Runners to win. I would agree.
Yeah.
Staying in that Southwest Conference, we had Wilco FC 0, San Antonio Athenians 2. Shock or no shock, Kaylor?
No shock. Easy.
Yeah, same. No shock. It was an expected thing. So I think we've had a lot of hat tricks, the Athenians have this past season. And I was almost half expecting something of that nature, or maybe one more point. But I still think, Wilco, speaking of, has done a great job. I don't know if you saw the score against Luxoria. Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay. Now I'm playing host, so shock or no shock. Wilco 1, Luxoria 0.
Yeah, we did. I think we actually did that last week, and we
Okay.
like because they went into the previous week. Oh my gosh, we're going back so far. So Luxoria beat Wilco 6-0. And then next week they play each other again, and Wilco wins 1-0. So shock, but like an awesome one, because it does define the Southwest Conference, because this is a conference where anything can happen. These teams are so competitive, and we've had this conversation a lot because it's true. Like, you never know what you're going to turn up and play. Like, these teams are so high quality, and it really does come down to sometimes like who's available that week because of like X, Y, Z, and who's had to play a back-to-back game, and that kind of thing comes into it so much because of how much quality we have in the UWS.
Right. And Luxoria is a Dallas team, and I think the Dallas teams are used to really being top of the table when it comes to Texas divisions. And so part of me wonders, they started out stronger. They weren't exactly winning games, but they weren't losing tough games. You know what I mean? Kind of like for them, I think this is a tough loss. And so part of me wonders if, as the season has gone on, if they aren't starting to kind of bow out a little bit. And that's not to take away the win from Wilco, because come on, 6-0 before, now back to a 1-0 win. Love it. Love to see it. Love to see these teams giving Dallas teams something to work for. I just think I find that really interesting. And shout out to Carlin Presley, who scored in the 63rd minute with an assist by Tatiana German for that Wilco Luxoria game, because she's one of the only scorers for Wilco. So that's, I think, fantastic, and very happy to see it. Yeah.
Definitely. And our final midweek/last night matches were over in that West Conference. So shock or no shock? Impact FC 6, FC Arizona 1. Kaylor?
Shock. I mean, if you want to look at the standings, you're going to say no, not a shock. But the way it happened, shock. Just where we were in my headspace, where I was holding FC Arizona, that was a team that I was like, maybe this is a team that can come out of nowhere and win a division, and to lose like that, shock.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at it in the standings, like, they're pretty close to each other. That's a crazy score. And it makes me wonder what happened there. I didn't watch that game, so I don't know what happened there, obviously. But it sounds like a possible mental shutdown. Because when I look at teams who are close together, and I'm looking at their standings and their points, and they're very close. So I feel like it's either somebody was missing, somebody that wasn't able to show up for the game, breakdown in the back line, fouls in the wrong spot. One thing I've seen before too is a lot of it depends on the ref, not just making the right calls, but sometimes if a ref stops the game too often, it completely destroys the flow of the game for stronger teams. And that's why a lot of these, maybe less strong teams come in and become really physical just to stop play and slow the game down. So I would have to do a deeper dive on that one. But I mean, the score in itself, just based on what I'm seeing out of this quick snapshot, I would say is a shock.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I was very shocked when I saw this score line, and I had a feeling that both of you guys would say that too. The factor that maybe goes into this for me is that travel aspect. This was FC Arizona's first time traveling over to Canada. Potentially that played into it. We also do have players on international duty right now. So that is potentially another factor. I don't have the confirmation of that, whether they were with a lessened squad potentially. But yeah, overall, that's a shock. To score 6 goals, Impact, I'm thoroughly impressed though. Good for you. Like, we're not putting you down by being shocked by this score line. It just continues to make this West Conference exciting. And we have one last matchup for shock or no shock. Calgary Foothills 3, SC Blue Heat 2.
Yeah.
Shock or no shock? What do we think? I don't know. This is a tough one. Katie, go ahead.
Well, it's tough because SC Blue Heat, they're reigning national champions, right? So, like, for Calgary Foothills to come in and to kind of dethrone them in this West Division right now is very interesting. I mean, of course, great scoreline here, 3-2. That's single point differential, right? So, I mean, I feel like it was expected to be a really good game. And like Santa Clarita, they have to lose at some point. They've got 2 losses, both to Calgary, and they've just been so consistent. And if I had to call it, I think Calgary will 100% be contending for the national championship. I think they're a fantastic team. And again, they've shown so much consistency against Santa Clarita that it's like, how can that go unnoticed? 0 losses, 0 ties, all wins. They've beat SC Blue Heat twice. I think they're definitely the team to watch this season. So again, back to shocked or not shocked? Not shocked, because they kind of had a track record of this in this past season. So much better this season than last season, though.
Kaylor, what do you think?
I mean, this is going to sound harsh because SC Blue Heat's a fantastic team. I'm shocked that Calgary gave up 2 goals.
I'm not shocked because they have got some speedy people on Santa Clarita Blue Heat. They can always put goals in the back of the net. I think it's just one of those things where it's a keeper's performance. It's like high shots on goal. Who's going to execute, right?
But let's note that Foothills were 3 goals up when they conceded. So they had a 3-0 lead and then conceded 2.
You can't relax with a team like Blue Heat. That's the thing. I mean, that's what happens when you go against a national championship team. I mean, great on them for getting those early goals in. That's almost the only way to turn Blue Heat over is to get early goals. But like, their attack is incredible. Take it from experience. We played them last season. Great team. So yeah, no, low key, maybe a little lucky. Maybe what they needed was to just take a breather, in that second half before they were able to really get the team together and to kind of regroup. That's kind of what it sounded like, what had to occur for Blue Heat, that some regrouping needed to occur so that they could get a couple points on the board and try to give them a good run for their money. But it's a little bit too late. It would have been awesome if that would have been a 3-3. That'd have been just pure crazy.
Yeah, I guess kind of where I sit with this is last time we've seen Calgary give up more than 1 goal was in their first game. And I know Blue Heat has the offensive talent to score the goals. It's just I really believe in what Calgary's doing defensively. Obviously, they're scoring goals for fun. That's what they've been doing all year, but they have a sneaky good defense that is not being talked about enough, in my opinion. I was a bit shocked that Calgary scored 3 as well, but I'm more shocked that they let in 2, even against a really good SC Blue Heat team.
Yeah, for me, this game was a shock because of the, I guess, high scoring game that it was. When last game it was a lot closer, although in that game I do think that Blue Heat were, like in their previous game when they played each other, Blue Heat were having a very off day goal scoring wise. Like they could not find the back of the net, and that happens. So this game, both of them could definitely find the back of the net, and so that was kind of a totally flipped version of how the two teams played in that first game. So I guess from that aspect, it's kind of a shock. As a fan, it was a thrilling game for sure. I definitely want to point that out. I don't know. This is like where you need that Katie Gray area because the same shock or no shock is really, really difficult. I'm going to say shock, but not because of like Foothills beating SC Blue Heat, more because I didn't expect that game to finish 3-2 to either side. Like I wasn't expecting that to be a 3-2 game. But yeah, it really does make this West Conference exciting. And let's move into previewing week 7 because Kaylor, I know you're going to preview a West Conference game. So I feel like it takes perfect transition into that.
Yeah, and I want to just look at this Foothills versus FC Arizona match. I mean, everything should tell you that Foothills should win this match. FC Arizona with a very bizarre loss, coming in Canada. And they're having to go back and see if they can right these wrongs. But I think if you're going to be finding any other team that can beat Foothills this year, FC Arizona might be it. I mean, we talked about it last week, Megan, but FC Arizona's roster is insanely big. Good luck. They have, when it comes to travel fatigue, that doesn't exist for them. They have about 100 players to choose from. I think that if there's going to be any team that could take down this Foothills squad, it's going to be FC Arizona, especially if they can right the wrongs from last week.
Yeah, and also I noticed that in the past, they had beat Blue Heat with a score of 2-4. And I think that says something that they were able to get points on the board against such like a really good team. And so I think I would foresee a possible couple points from Arizona, but at the end of the day, I hate to say that. Well, I actually don't hate to say, but I think that Calgary will probably take this one. But that's not, again, you can't take a team like Arizona, FC Arizona easy because they do have the ability to get points on the board. So just want to add my 2 cents there.
Yeah, 100%. Foothills are coming off a really, really tough match last night. And so to turn around and play again, while I spoke to the goalkeeper in the recap show, and she says that they've got access to this incredible recovery stuff. That was a really intense battle last night. And so to turn around and play again, it's going to be tough. And that's definitely going to be a factor. And maybe FC Arizona didn't really come to life and exert too much energy in that first matchup of their weekend. And so that could be a factor too. It's going to be a crazy weekend in the West. Katie, who are you previewing this weekend?
Yeah, so I guess it's not technically this weekend, but July 1st is the next game up for the San Antonio Athenians against FC Austin Elite. And I think that's going to be the match of the season for the division because the Athenians just recently dethroned FC Austin Elite. They're sitting at the top of the table right now, but FC Austin Elite tied them in the last game. And so I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Now, when the Athenians played FC Austin Elite, they didn't have their starting striker Enzi, who has just been an integral piece, right? I don't know if she's going to be back for this game or not, but of course we have plenty of players on the team with the ability to score and put goals into the back of the net. But it's more about, I think this is going to be more of a dig deep rivalry, right? Because there's just so much beef here on this team, so much drama between the two teams, whether it's between coaching staff and management to like actual players. We have Mel, who used to play for Mel Mior, who used to play for San Antonio Athenians, now is playing for FC Austin Elite. So there's just a lot of things happening there, and I think it's going to be a really good game. And I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up in another tie. And I don't know what that means for them mathematically, but I think if it ends up in a tie, that puts them back in the first place spot, right?
If Austin wins their game in hand, a draw essentially will probably win the division for Austin Elite. So this is a must-win match for San Antonio because they would be tied on points with a much better goal differential unless something crazy happens against Wilco.
Right.
So
right.
this is a massive, massive match, especially if Austin Elite wins that game in hand.
Yeah, this game will single-handedly determine probably who goes to the playoffs. Like, it's going to be interesting because everything else on the schedule, I feel like is almost, and again, like you said, Kaylor, things can happen, but I feel like everything else on the schedule, the strength of schedule is like almost nothing for the Athenians. Like they'll probably just clean it out, finish it out strong. Same with FC Austin Elite, but I know the last time the Athenians played FC Austin Elite, they said they should have won, that they didn't think that the tie was a correct
representation
finish for that game. Yeah, representation of the game. Yeah, thank you for that. And so I'm interested to see. I think the Athenians have a point to prove. So I think it's either going to be a tie or a single point differential.
Yeah, and I just want to say that Katie is with us every other week because she's working with ESPN San Antonio. And so I think it's super funny that you're like, I'm previewing this game because it must be previewed by me.
Yeah. Like, I must have something to say about this. I won't be here next weekend.
But it's so true because that game is going to be insanely epic. And the difference between FC Austin Elite and San Antonio Athenians to me is really in that final third, that the Athenians seem to be able to dominate scorelines with like more ease. They like to put a good few goals past, whereas FC Austin Elite kind of just like take care of business. We're not like this high scoring team, but we're just going to continually win and do enough to get the 3 points. And so it makes it really interesting when it comes down to the end of the season, because should Austin slip up and not be able to do their constant thing where they get those 3 points, when it becomes down to goal difference, that's where the Athenians are like, well, our attacking finesse is coming into play here because we like to get up on that goal differential. They are currently at a 21 goal differential, and FC Austin Elite 9. Like that's a very big difference.
Yeah.
That's like a major difference between these two teams. And we talk about, I'm going to try and say it, the Riverwalk rivalry.
Oh gosh, don't make me say it. I can't say it one more time.
Being that San Antonio rivalry, which is epic because we talk about the Atlanta one, like when it's that same city, like it means so much to the entire community. But all eyes do turn to the FC Austin Elite San Antonio Athenians rivalry because it's going to be a pivotal moment in the season, like you say, Katie. So yeah, we can't watch that game until July 1st, but it needed to be spoken about and we needed Katie's perspective on it.
Yes. I'm going to do my best to give some additional coverage to that to maybe feed to you guys. So when the time comes, you have some other things to talk about. But yeah, I think the biggest difference between the two teams is the Athenians' ability to not only run up scores, but there are probably 4 or 5 different players that are really able to put quality goals into the net. And so I think we don't see as much of that from FC Austin Elite. We have maybe 1 or 2 key players there, but with the Athenians, it's anybody's game, really and truly, for them. And they've done such a great job that I've noticed this season in the attack of just doing a great job of seamlessly incorporating their midfield into the attack as well. I mean, they have Jillian, who's incredible center mid. They have Emma. Both of these players in the center mid positions do a wonderful job of really throwing off the back line because they are moving in ways that are hard to follow. Lots of quick 1-2s, a lot of unexpected shots taken. You've got a lot of shots being taken, I mean, 25, 30 yards out that you would not expect. You have run-ons to the ball. I mean, that's the thing about the Athenians. There's kind of almost no rhyme or reason because these girls can execute in so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, they constantly do the drop shot or, oh, this girl always runs in. It's no, like these are the attacking players for the Athenians are able to do things in so many different ways, which is something I've really enjoyed watching this season. But again, I feel like the grit, the physicality, the pure heart and determination from FC Austin Elite, I'm just so pumped for this game. Like, I'm going to do my best to be there and watch it. I really am because I think that I think it's going to be one for the books 100%. So
I mean, something that does need to be shouted out here, and I know, the Athenians were missing key players when this match was played earlier this year, but this defense for Austin is wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. This if there's any team that probably can shut down the Athenians, this is it. I mean, like you said, they were missing a key striker at the beginning of the year, but like you also said, they still had the 4 or 5 other girls on the team, and they shut them down perfectly fine. This, who knows? And maybe this is another Austin team that, maybe, hey, they can just grind one out because all they need is a draw.
Yeah.
All they need is a draw to go to the playoffs. This is a must win for the Athenians. Can they live up to the pressure, and can Austin thrive under it?
Yes. And I love both teams so much. I really do. I am a super fan of somehow both Austin and San Antonio. So that's really hard for me. I mean, it's a win-win for me either way. But yeah, no, I of course love my old club too. So it's going to be a good one.
It is. And speaking of high pressure situations, we also have the Heartland division that is giving me heart attacks because this Heartland division is insane. And the game that I'm going to be previewing, it looks like we lost Katie.
She said what she had to say and just left.
She's like, Athenians, FC Austin Elite, done.
Drop the mic.
Oh my gosh, that was too funny. Okay.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi. My internet, I think, just decided to stop. So.
Oh my gosh. Kaylor said the funniest thing as soon as she got. He was like, finished talking about FC Austin Elite and San Antonio Athenians. She's done.
and I'm out. Bye. My job is done here.
Oh gosh, that was so funny. Perfect timing. But back over into the Heartland division that's giving me heart attacks because this division is just insanely close. Now, I'm just going to recap the standings before I give you my preview. So, FC Wichita, 13 points, 6 games played. KC Courage, 13 points, 6 games played. Sporting Nebraska, 13 points, 7 games played. Gretna Elite, 10 points, 6 games played. Side FC, 7 points, 7 games played. Arkansas Comets, 2 points, 5 games played. Arkansas Wolves, 1 point, 5 games played. So this Heartland division is just insanely close. I really can't take my eyes off it. And it doesn't get much bigger than the matchup between KC Courage and FC Wichita. That is kicking off at 3 p.m. Central Time in Kansas City, Missouri at Rockhurst University Stadium. So these two teams tied for first in this division with the exact same goal differential of 10, the exact same record of 4-1-1, and this is their first meeting of the season. And so this game means a lot And then we've also got Sporting Nebraska, 13 points. If this game comes away at a draw, Sporting Nebraska sat right there, hoping that happens so they can swoop in and be in contention too. So this game means everything for this division. Now, they have the exact same record, 4-1-1, heading into this game. For FC Wichita, that one loss came at the hands of Gretna Elite in a tight 2-1 fashion. And for KC Courage, it was another close defeat, but they fell 2-1 to Side FC. So both teams have been beaten by 2-1. They know what it feels like to be in those close games and how tough it is to take those losses. And I just don't think that they're gonna want to let it go this week. It's going to be so insane. And both teams are also coming off draws. So Gretna Elite and KC Courage drew 0-0. And now they're coming into this weekend going off not scoring and tying 0-0. Then you've got FC Wichita coming off of a 1-1 tie with Nebraska. So both teams in this matchup are looking to get back to winning ways. They're both looking for 3 points because they need it. But Sporting Nebraska will be hoping that they do split and both go away with a point. So, I mean, I can't cope. How intense is this game going to be?
Wow. I just want to say that I love that there are so many teams so close in contention with one another. This is something that we haven't seen a whole lot of in the UWS. I feel like there's always one or two outliers in every division. But here, what I'm loving about this is that it's so close. And that to me tells me that there's a lot of evenly matched games. There's a lot of really strong talent in this one area. There's enough talent to span across 3 teams, which is fantastic. And so I love to see it. And I wish we could get closer comparisons like that in a lot of the other divisions, and do whatever it takes to help bring up some of the other teams in each division of but I don't know, anytime you're this close in points, I feel like these games in this final part of the season are going to feel more like playoff games. They're not going to feel like regular season games because everybody is out for blood and everybody is realizing that they have to win if they want to progress. And so that to me feels like a playoff game. And anytime teams go into a playoff type situation, that's when upsets happen. That's when the crazy happens because there's so much more heart and desire in the game versus a regular season game. And I know coaches try to say, oh, like bring that for every game throughout the season, but we've seen it time and time again across all kinds of different leagues. Anytime it's the playoffs, things get complicated. So who knows? Honestly, I can't make a prediction on this one.
I've been searching for the last week because I saw this matchup coming. I've been searching everywhere. If somehow their next, because this is their first time meeting, they still have another meeting after this as well. If these both end up as like a 2-1 win for one team and 2-1 win for the other, or a draw on each, what's the tiebreaker if the goal differential's the same? What happens? Do we get a one-off playoff game? Because my goodness, I would be here for that.
Oh, heck yeah. That'd be great.
That would be insane. We need Jonathan back to confirm these things because I don't know. That's a very valid question. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened because what is separating these two teams? Like this whole division, like you say, Katie, is so competitive. Like you can't, like Sporting Nebraska and Gretna Elite could both very well be of quality to represent this Heartland division because they've both been able to pull off some really great results this season. They're very high quality teams. This division is filled with top class players.
I'm also curious to know, and I think we could only really know this if we go back and watch the games thoroughly to know, like, was that tie with FC Wichita and Sporting Nebraska warranted? Where I want to know about all these other tie games, who played better, who was dominating. I would love some percentages there, or stats or something, or just I think you could just tell by watching anyway, right? But I think in those moments, that's the pretty much only way to predict who might come out on top is like if you're watching the entirety of the game in all these tie matches. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, no doubt.
It is. And you can catch all of these games on 11 Sport. Don't miss them. If you're in the area, make sure you get there because a lot of these teams are putting on full events. I mean, food trucks, live activities going on for kids. Like everything is going on at these matches to make the summer of soccer epic. So if you're in the area, definitely be sure to check it out. But of course, 11 Sports will be streaming everything. And has anybody got any final thoughts before we end the kickoff show for match week 7?
I do just the first week of the year, I said that come the end of the season, I believed in the Arkansas Comets to play upset to somebody. FC Courage's last match of the year against Arkansas Comets. So in a way, I hope I'm right. In a way, I hope I'm totally wrong.
Hey, anything can happen in the summer of soccer. And, like we're saying, when you get down to those final games, it's just another ball game. So you never know.
It is. It's coming up to the end of the season. There's so many close matchups. Every game, there's a lot on the line. And so it's going to make for an awesome weekend for UWS fans. Thank you to everybody who has joined us today. Thank you to all our sponsors who are listed down below. And enjoy the games. Thank you, guys. And we will be back on sometime midweek for the recap show and back next Saturday for more kickoff show fun. Woo-hoo. See you next week.
Sounds great. Bye.
I'm a part of UWS because of the opportunity it provides women.
Because it provided me the competition and exposure I needed to get to where I am today.
Because financial transparency is important to me.
Because at its core and within its leadership, it is truly dedicated to the promotion of the women's game.
Because of the competitive pathway it provides female players and coaches.
Because it expands the pathway of our club and offers more opportunities for players to develop.
Because I too support women in sports.
Because of the people. I love competing at a high level with some awesome teammates and getting to compete against people around the country.
Because it provides female athletes with a much needed platform to remain in the game in a professional setting.
Because it's the best summer league in the whole country. There's no question about it.
Because of the commitment to diversity for the players, coaches, and administrators of the UWS.
Because I like the opportunity to compete at such a high level and the advancement of the women's game.
I am a part of UWS because I believe in its vision and its leadership.